What's up, kinfolk? Welcome to the Adapt and Respond episode with Bomani Jones, who is host of The Right Time, and you should watch him on YouTube. If you don't listen to the podcast, I don't know what you're doing. I've been listening to the podcast for, I think it's damn near 8 years now, but I've been listening to Bomani for a decade plus, and it's very cool to have him on the show to talk about, I think, what is your second favorite sports, Bo? Is that accurate when I say college football is behind the NBA?
Yeah, but I think it's the most interesting talker.
Okay.
Like, in terms of something to talk about, there's so many different levels of this. This is a whole different world, man. And we're now in levels that we didn't know were possible.
Man, because it feels like yesterday we were having a conversation about, do we really need a national championship that has a bracket and all these things? And I'm very much in favor of that, and other people are not. And now it looks like we're going to go from 4 teams to 12 teams and possibly look like the FCS in Texas high school football with 24 teams.
Wow.
Yeah. That's all over there for a second. But the reason I wanted to have Bo on is the buyouts. The buyouts be happening. All right. So the way I looked at this was, if you haven't listened to Monday's episode of The Right Time, you should. It will inform the conversation that we're having here. I'm not going to rehash it. I'm going to say go catch up. You watch a college football show like this, you probably already know this. But is it fair to say that James Franklin went into the John Cooper zone at Penn State, and that's why he got fired after 6 games?
It is a combination of the John Cooper zone and the Gary Gibbs zone, because the John Cooper zone, I think that he compares very comparably to Cooper in the sense that Cooper reestablished what the ceiling could be at Ohio State, which is a very important contribution. The Earl Bruce era of Ohio State football was fair to middling. It was 9 wins, 9-3 every year. You can go look it up. There's just a long stretch of 9-3, which is just fine. You do that at Wisconsin at that time, they would have built a statue of you. But like, it's Ohio State, right? That's not what they need. Cooper showed, we can be back at a top 3 level of football, which they hadn't been for a very long time, but also 2-10-1 over 13 years against Michigan. Penn State doesn't have a Michigan. It kind of builds its Michigan as a collection of teams. It's a little Michigan, it's a little Ohio State. Just generally the idea of whoever's good in the Big Ten, because now we're at a point where you have generations of people who don't remember that Penn State used to be independent. Like, it's just a Big Ten school at this point. And if they played one of the good teams, they didn't win over and over and over again. And so it becomes a matter to me of, yeah, their overall record was very good, but they're supposed to win one of those every now and then. Like, I don't think they're supposed to win them that often. If we're being perfectly honest, I don't think they're supposed to be like a 50-50 situation against top 10 teams or whatever it is. No, but you're supposed to win 1 or 2. And of course, Indiana showed up, and Cignetti's just going to get, everybody over there needs to be watching their backs, because the excuses no longer exist. They're all gone. I bet Snyder probably did that in the Big 8. Like, once the people start winning in the hinterlands, oh baby, you don't have a story anymore.
It's funny to bring up Bill Snyder in this context, because I'm not old enough to experience that era, but I heard it all about. Kansas State was absolutely positively garbage. Like, they were rivaling Prairie View A&M in the 80s for that consecutive loss streak.
Yes.
And then Bill Snyder turned them into a farming monster, which is a little bit different than a regular monster. Because my worst away game experience ever is in Manhattan. I hated that. And it was cold, and they got that big pane glass on the press box, so your feet was right up against it, and I'd get frostbite watching Oklahoma actually pull this one out. But I also watched, another Lockett tearing up Oklahoma. By the way, they got another one.
Are you serious?
Sterling. They got another one.
Wow.
He there now, returning punts. We keep sending Locketts from over here up there, and I really need him to stay down here. But that's another question altogether. To your point about Curt Cignetti, I actually want to get to this relatively quickly, but I want to make a real quick stop with Ohio State, because I think this is interesting for you. If Ryan Day doesn't beat Michigan this year, does he fall into the James Franklin zone?
So that's where Cooper again becomes interesting and instructive, in that they gave him 13 years. With that terrible record against Michigan, Cooper still got 13 years. And it And in terms of the larger success, it was fairly up and down. Like, it wasn't like every year was a top 5 finish, but you're losing to Michigan, right? I think that Ohio State is a job that I think is like LSU in the sense that we talk a lot about the shortcomings of their coaches, but they've demonstrated themselves to actually be fairly patient over the course of time, and they're not as quick to run people out. Like, the gold standard obviously is Alabama, and if this was Alabama, Ryan Day would have already been fired. No question. Like, what is it, 5 years in a row we're talking about now? They would have already ran his ass out of there on a rail. It's different. It just means more. It doesn't really actually apply to the whole conference, but it really does apply in that place. But if he does lose, let's ask this. If he loses to Michigan again, and that's their only loss, I don't think any program other than Alabama wants to be the place that says, we fire you for going 11-1. But if they mess around and are like 10-2, 9-3, and they lose to this Michigan team that isn't good, and they lost to last year's Michigan team that's not good, I think they try to make you quit. Like, that's the thing about Alabama. Alabama doesn't so much fire you. You just quit. You just don't want to do that no more.
They put you in one of the rooms in Japan, with nothing to do.
Ray Perkins, quit. Bill Curry, quit. Dennis Francione, quit. It's like they make you quit.
Which is also very informative about the space that we're in, is that it's more interesting to buy you out now than it is to force you to quit. On the Ryan Day tip, when they lost to Michigan, it was clear to me that they didn't win the national championship. Some furniture might have to be moved at somebody's house, but they won the national championship. And I wonder if you do that again, let's say you lose to Michigan, but you win the national championship, then nobody's getting fired, but nobody's truly happy, because Michigan gets to say, we ran the table and we beat y'all ass.
Yeah.
You still ain't been able to do that to us.
Yeah, Alabama's the only place that really cares about national championships, right? Everybody else would like to win one. They're the only people that are really like holding that up as this metric. But hey, I asked this in line with what we were just talking about. If you're Ohio State, you just get to a place where you make it miserable for the guy? Like, okay, we're going to replace your offensive and your defensive coordinator, and we're going to get you a new strength coach.
All of that's on the table.
Right.
And the reason I say all of that's on the table, because it's kind of getting us into this conversation about buying people out. The dominoes that have fallen over the last 3 years are very interesting to me. So Ross Bjork, who was at Ole Miss, was at A&M, also went to Emporia State in Kansas. So you understand who we're dealing with right here. I don't care. I went to school in nowhere to come down here to be an SEC AD, becomes the AD at A&M, fires Jimbo Fisher on that $76 million buyout, gets to hire Mike Elko, and then dips to Ohio State. Yes. Not only does he look good for the hire he made at A&M, he gets to Ohio State and he says, what do you think you need to win? And I think you make this point better than anybody else. You're going to get it at Ohio State.
Yep.
What you need, you're going to get. And he said, I need $20 million. Here's $20 million. And I was like, yeah, dog, this is on you now. And the first half of the season, it didn't feel that way. And when they took that loss to Oregon, it got real hot under the collar over there. I'm more interested now to find out what the ADs are willing to do and which ones are built for this, because I got a whole lot of old men who don't want to coach in this environment. And I get it. You millionaires several times over. I think about Cale Gundy all the time. Yeah. He never became an OC, never became a head coach, but is a millionaire just by stacking the bread of $350 annual for like 20 years. You invest that right. So now we're in a space where you're going to pay James Franklin $50 million to go away. But you also got Pat Kraft going hunting. So names that come up are Signetti, Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, Matt Rule, because they homies. Yes. And then Fran Brown, I don't know about this one. He earlier today at his press conference, he was asked about the Penn State job. I think it's disrespectful just to bring that up. And I'm going, not when you at Syracuse, my guy.
I love him. I love him because he believes, because I think he believes every word of this madness that he utters.
Like, the things he be out there saying are things I think many men think to say, but are not in his position to say them.
Correct.
Like comparing the great player in the transfer portal to my wife.
Yes.
I don't go there.
Yeah.
But also I watched PJ Fleck last week. My man got up there on Monday and he says, before Ohio State, I'd like to shout out my wife, whose birthday is today, but I'm here coaching football. And I'm going, what are we teaching? How we doing? And I'm out, a single black man, I'd be looking around going, okay, sure.
Yeah, he needed to do like Beamer did last year and had the boys sing the Fantasia tour. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes, you got the labor right there ready to help you out.
Yes, you got to call in a solid. Like,
saying, they know some people that can make this good.
Right.
And we out here talking about football. Anyway, I bring all that up to say on Big Noon last year, I was reminded because I went back looking at some tape, trying to figure out what else I could think about with Kurt Signetti, right? Not trying to be obvious about it. But heading into a game on November 16th last year, he signed an extension at Indiana. And the thought was out that signing that extension was not smart because it's Indiana. And the quote is, the fact of the matter is, we're an emerging superpower in college football. Why would I leave? Now, that was November last. Now Indiana is the number 3 team in the country.
And they look it.
What? I didn't know there was money like that in Indiana. And then I took a look at their roll call. I don't think that he's wrong. And I'm asking you, like, is he?
So what NIL has done, and once you start actually cutting some checks, what it stops is, to me, the era of, for example, 2001 Miami Hurricanes, which of course are a bit of a talent outlier. But what's amazing about a team like that is how good the twos are, right? That's the thing about Alabama at the height of the Saban era. It's that I don't think that we don't talk as much about it, but I don't know how much people truly observe how much talent is rotated in college football. There are typically 8 linemen that are going to get played. You're going to have a lot of rotation, especially on the defensive line, because there are so many plays and these guys are just going to wind up getting gassed. It's harder to stack all those dudes now, right? When Texas Tech can show up and drop a bag in front of you, Texas Tech, which is, I think, around the top 10, if not in the top 10 right now.
7.
7, yeah. Look, that's probably a temporary situation if history is any indication, but they are still able to get a caliber of player that used to be worth it to be a number 2
right
at Texas in a way that it wouldn't necessarily be worth it to be a number 1 at Texas Tech. Well, now Texas Tech is paying number 1s. Therefore, these people are then going to go there. And so I look at what Indiana has, even if they're not an emerging superpower, what they can be with the right coach is a very good team in the Big Ten, which they'll build a statue of him for being a very good coach in the Big Ten. Like, if I'm him, there's no way in the world I'm leaving Indiana for Penn State, a place where I believe the ceiling. So there's the 1-year ceiling, but the ceiling of consistent success, I don't think we know what that is. And I think that Penn State is not terribly dissimilar to basically every school that moved up from the Big East to a bigger conference. All of them fell off. You go look at it, including Miami, which did not win the ACC for over 20 years. Penn State stepped up from the old Big East, which was being an independent on the East Coast, right? They stepped up into the Big Ten. I think they've won the Big Ten like 3 or 4 times over the course of the 30-something years that they've been in the Big Ten, but they're not the monster that they were before they got in. This is a top 10-ish program that has the chance to be really good in the right year, but it is more like Auburn than it is like Alabama. And what are they expecting for Signetti if they're like, yo, you can get Indiana to number 3. Imagine what you can do here. And it doesn't exactly work that way, right? Correct. I would stay right where I am. It would be an ego move to me if you make that move.
I'm with that. I believe that Penn State has underperformed for years, but I went into the season bagging on Penn State, and I was getting harangued for it. And I'm going, hey, look, 4-20 against top 10 opponents is James Franklin. Show me who they have beaten that I give a damn about. Realize that the last FBS team they beat was SMU and Boise State. Okay? That's 1. 2 is we live in a world now where Chad Weiberg goes to Oklahoma State, says, I'm going to fire Mike Gundy, who's been their best football coach by an enormous margin for 20 years. Bo, They had a losing season in year one. They went bowling for 18 straight years. They had a 3-9 season, and they got off to a bad start where they lost to my alma mater and said, okay, enough is enough. To which many of us are going, Boone is dead. By the way, my favorite way to try to categorize Mike Gundy when people ask me who runs Stillwater and what's it like. I said, when Boone Pickens passed away and we all went to his funeral, Mike was on stage wearing a white suit. Okay, so there's that. That dude gone. Okay, and the rollover 500 contract that he had, which is ridiculous, was also kind of brain in, but he ran off 2 athletic directors and a president. Okay, finally came time when Chad Weiberg said, all right, we're going to need to fight for our life with these conference realignment in a couple of 5 years. So he makes the move, but they find $15 million in the checking account. You know, in business terms, that's the general operating budget. Arkansas, they said the same damn thing. By the way, the last FBS team that Power 4 team that Oklahoma State beat was Arkansas. Sam Pittman's Arkansas. These things working together is just fun. But I look at Penn State and I say, you had Saquon Barkley, you had Micah Parsons, you were great in 2016. You had Jahan Dotson, like Abdul Carter. I can keep going down the list of going, if I can go to Harrisburg and find Micah Parsons, and I can go to St. Joe's Prep and maybe convince Marvin Harrison Jr. and perhaps Kyle McCord to come play for me, or I end up with Drew Aller because he didn't get an Ohio State offer, I should be able to compete with you. I think today, it's the second best job in the Big Ten if the right person has the job. Now, it's in the middle of nowhere, and I get the Pennsyltucky of it all, but they get dudes that just want to be a part of that program because it's still got that pull locally. Even in the name, image, and likeness era, you can money whip a local kid. You just got to money whip the local kid. He ain't going to go there for nothing. You got to pay him like you pay everybody else. That's okay. Go to Jersey. You know what I'm saying? Go raid Jersey where they just be pumping out football players
that don't go to school in New Jersey.
But I think the reason that Penn State gets the bad rep is exactly what we started the conversation with. They don't beat the teams that we think they should beat every once in a while. They lose to Oregon in the Big Ten championship. You know, they lose to Oregon in double overtime, and then you watch Indiana beat them by double digits on the road. Yikes. Yeah, that's untenable. You can't lose to UCLA, who's winless, and you can't lose to Northwestern.
It was back-to-back.
You can't lose to Northwestern.
Yeah, back-to-back indefensible losses. Because the thing is, the UCLA loss, knowing what we know about college students, those kinds of things can happen, right? But after that happens, you kick the teeth out of whoever is next. And they lost at home to Northwestern, who I keep bringing up. On one level, Northwestern is 4-2, but man, is that a week 4? Good gracious, is that a week 4?
And you know what? Shouts to them. They got the pelt. It's on the wall, right? They get to point at it. You know what I'm saying? That's the big one for them, and I like it. I also think insult to literal injury is Drew Aller was lost for the season in this game.
Yes.
So you didn't get busted up by Oregon. You got busted up by Northwestern. Right as Northwestern feels like it's about to do some things because they're building a stadium that they hope to be very, very proud of soon. My last thought on this is when you can find $76 million to tell Jimbo Fisher to mow his lawn, $50 million to tell James Franklin to mow his lawn, 15 for Mike Gundy, and I think it's close to 9 for Sam Pittman at Arkansas. I think everybody can get got. But how many other coaches do we think might not have their jobs next year on what we've seen as this recent trend of, we're just going to cut this rope?
All right, so let's keep an eye on Greg Schiano, who's complaining about the money at Rutgers, which is probably a fair point for him to make. Not the money in his pocket, but the money for getting players, right? Is like, where is the money? Because the question that you have to ask about every college football program, and this audience is one that understands this better than a lot, but it is, so where's your money coming from? So one thing that I'm coming to understand about James Franklin with Terry Pegula and I forget the other guys, is 2 guys that are the big money guys for Penn State athletics, and neither of them like James Franklin.
That's bad for business.
Yeah. You can't.
It's bad for his business.
Yeah. You can't do that. And so with a lot of programs, it winds up being a case like Oklahoma State, where the answer was very simple. Texas is a fascinating job because you get a list of people, like where people roll it out and it just rolls all the way down, and you have a zillion different people to whom you have to answer. A&M can go find oil money, and as long as the price of crude is doing the right thing, then you can go figure out where to get that $75 million to let Jimbo Fisher. go. Everybody around their program needs to ask themselves, okay, what's the money? And the reason I say that is everybody's impatient. Like, I can't tell if it's like a function of the world that everybody is impatient in the ways that they kind of are right now. But like, for example, North Carolina is about to have to show the world whether they're actually serious about this football thing, because in the words of Jeremy Foley, some of the most important words ever uttered when they fired Ron Zook, that which will be done eventually should be done immediately. Carolina, that's what, I mean, and he was right. Zook stayed for the rest of the year, but he was like, they lost to Mississippi State. Who are we fooling here? We know what's about to happen. We're going to go ahead and do this. Carolina, this isn't going to work. It's going to cost you $30 million to get from under it. It's going to cost you more to keep going in non-monetary costs. You have to fire this man. And by the way, what makes it worse is the nature of the transfer portal dates and everything else. You got to fire these people during the year. You can't just wait till the end of the year or anything else. No. They got to go pronto.
Couple things on that. One, I think you're going to see firing in the middle of the year more often because the portal opens the 30-day window for all players to transfer.
Yes.
And the worst thing Nick Saban did to Kalen DeBoer was retire before the season ended.
Yep.
You retire after kids are enrolled. You know what I'm saying? Like, before they can go nowhere.
Right.
Before they can really get, like Caleb Downs and Julian saying, two of the three best players at Ohio State and probably two of the top 5 players in the country, both end up there because, hey, he's gone in January 10, right?
Right.
That doesn't happen December 1. I don't think that happens for Ohio State. And that led to winning a national championship and setting them up for a really good first year starter. The thing that I thought interesting about where the money's coming from is you got revenue sharing along with name, image, and likeness, right? So, and you still got to cover the cost of scholarships. So you're getting paid to work like you get paid to get your MBA at work, which I kind of love, I really do. But on the other hand, you got to come up with more money to pay. So when SMU, who by the way still hasn't lost an ACC regular season game, gets to say, we'll forego the television revenue for however long, it's fine. That for me is, I don't want your money. I don't want you. If you can afford not to function on $35, $40 million annually for 4 years from your football program, why do I want to wait for you to get healthy to come after all of us?
Right.
And they didn't wait. They made the playoff in year 1. Memphis tried to join the Big 12. They said, hey, we're bringing all this. We don't want no money. We're bringing you $200 million. What do you think? And Brett Yorkmeyer said, not on your life, buddy. Not on your life. And I thought that was informed into what we are coming to see. It's getting harder to transfer conferences, to realign, as they say. But also, people are understanding that if you got Fred Smith money, do I really want to play poker with you?
Right.
I don't think I do. I don't think that's something I want.
Right. That was I actually thought that Texas and Oklahoma should have been insulted that the SEC would take them. They're just like, yeah, come on. We'll do to you like we did there. Like, what? Like typically you don't want somebody, unless you're like the ACC in the early 90s or even in the early aughts, where you need to legitimize your conference. Like, bringing in a world beater, a potential world beater that isn't actually going to bring in more money for anybody, that is going to come in here and beat us.
That's the worst possible thing, right? And I always equate these things to some measure of poker or dominoes, because those are games that I play and I'm not terrible at. I ain't Nick Wright, but I ain't terrible at, right? I know who I'm sitting across from and I know who I'm not. I know when I need to get up and leave. And there are fewer places to get up and leave now because we lost the Pac-12 due to absolute negligence that we're going to talk about forever. But we've got 4 places where people want to watch college football at a high level, right? And Cody Campbell at Texas Tech, their billionaire booster, a man who sold his oil company for $4 billion, and said Texas Tech football is about to get a lot better.
Yes.
His name's on the field.
Yes.
He is the chair of the Board of Regents, and he's sending out these ad campaigns that are pissing off all the people you expect them to. Meanwhile, Texas Tech spend more money than anybody else, and they're going, hey, y'all said these are the rules. We'll play by the rules. We from West Texas. We don't care about anything else.
Right.
And that's dangerous to anybody that does care about other things. Like Stanford don't want to, I wouldn't want that job. I want a Stanford job.
Oh, God, no. Can't imagine how terrible it is. Stanford is going to turn into what Northwestern was in the 80s.
Yo, man, we ain't got to, man, I love Denny Green.
And
What
for
else
people
had
to
to have that job
understand,
during that time?
and for people to understand how bad Northwestern was in that time, when Denny Green was the coach there, they had a season where they won 2 games, and he was named Big Ten Coach of the Year for
Yes!
winning 2 games.
This predated me by some time, but I needed to find out what was going on. And when I looked at it and I read about it, the only other story that, man, we don't have time for it, but the only other story I wasn't really around for, didn't get to live through that I wanted to, is how Phil Former went from OC to
It's
head coach
amazing.
of Tennessee.
It was amazing. What an amazing time.
Oh my God.
They made the right decision. But Johnny Majors went to his grave shit talking Phil Fulmer.
Wouldn't
His
you?
grave. Yes, I left with a heart attack and I came back and I lost Peyton Manning in my whole entire. And I'm Johnny Majors at Tennessee. Like, I'm not just some bum.
What? So this another aside, but University of Pittsburgh, right, is it's the only thing that's out of pocket in Pittsburgh. Everything else is black and gold but Pittsburgh.
Yes.
So much so they play football at Pittsburgh on Thursday and they'd be like, is the Steelers playing?
Yes.
Who the hell is this? But Johnny Majors won a national championship and had a Heisman winner at Pittsburgh.
Yes.
And I'm going, wait, how do we not? Why is he Tennessee's Johnny Major? Why ain't he Pitts? Oh, yeah. Okay. Y'all don't really care about this. I'll throw this over my Aaron Donald. Nah, I'll throw that over my shoulder too.
Hey, yo, you mentioned this, and I've never really thought about it until now, but Pitt was in a lot of ways like proto Miami in that we got a lot of really good players right around here, and they had a good 10-year run of being excellent. The Jackie Sherrill years are largely excellent. And, you got Tony Dorsett, you got all these guys, and it's literally like it never happened. But they always have a handful of, like, not just pros, excellent players, right? Like Darrelle Revis, Aaron Donald. Like, these are 2 inner circle Hall of Famers.
It's Gerald.
Yes. LaShawn McCoy.
He probably doesn't make too deep. That's not shade. That's how good the program is. He don't make the 2 deep.
Yes.
Talk about, they got monsters. They got monsters. Hold on. Let me get to my bold questions. Get my bold questions. All right. So this is a college football one, but it's really kind of in the weeds. Heisman finalists is kind of all over the board, especially since John Mateer and them absolutely shit the bed.
Yes.
Trinidad Chambliss, Ty Simpson, Carson Beck, Julian Sands / Jeremiah Smith. Who do you like here?
I think that if Miami goes through their schedule, which it looks like they will, Carson Beck looks really good. Really good. And if Miami wins it, if Miami is the best team in the country and it's a year where you're not sure who to vote for, the quarterback of the best team in the country is going to be the place that people wind up.
It's true. It's true. Thing about this conversation, though, is Julian Sands and Jeremiah Smith might end up splitting the vote like 2016, Oklahoma, Baker Mayfield, D.D. Westbrook. D.D. Westbrook being a Heisman finalist just feels like a capsule to me because what else happened after that? Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. And I threw Trinidad Chambliss in there only because that is a dude that would not exist otherwise, right? Ferris State, you transfer where you were still splitting time to Ole Miss where you're expected to be the backup. Austin Simmons gets an ankle injury, and all of a sudden you're the Tom Brady to his Drew Bledsoe out here cooking people. But I saw him play against Central Oklahoma because I'm that kind of a junkie, and I was going, "Ooh, that boy could play." And he ended up Ole Miss. I'm like, all right. I think turns out to be one of these college quarterbacks that everybody loves. We're short, we're dumpy, but we're fast, and we can throw that ball real far.
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, and we're at the place now where people don't just associate Ole Miss with terrible things. So, he's got a chance to be to warm some hearts.
Man, I wish it was closer to Memphis. Then we could have a different conversation.
Yeah.
So this is one that I've been thinking about. When it did Denzel Washington turn heel at 70?
So I watch Highest and Lowest, and my buddy Howard Bryant had the best point because I didn't think the movie was as bad as other people did. But when he was chasing ASAP Rocky through that train station, brother, I'm 45, and I'm here to tell you, my legs would fall off if I tried to do all the stuff that he was doing, and I work out.
Man, look, I like Spike. I love Spike. I like and love Spike. 25th Hour. He got game. We can even take it all the way to the Five Bloods. But after that, I don't need you to make no more Kurosawa remakes. I don't need you and Denzel to do nothing else together. By the way, I couldn't let this one go. What is that man doing with a Caesar? What's he doing with that?
Nobody loses hair anymore, RJ. Everybody apparently is eternal. Everybody gets a great haircut till the day they die.
I got a post on TikTok where for my followers, where you leading them? I went like this. I went, you better live in my world, dog. Don't or buy back my business. I was like, you know what? I got enough black men that want to tell me what it is that I be doing wrong. I'm cool on this one. All right, Spike. All right, Denzel. You know what I mean?
There was lots of judgment. You're correct. There was lots of judgment.
There's lots of judgment. Man, speaking of lots of judgment, I'm on that other train with the Thomas Pynchon novel that PTA kind of sort of adapted, but didn't really adapt because you can't adapt no Thomas Pynchon novel.
Yeah.
But anyway, last question for you, and this one, take any direction you want. Who is more electable, Feinbaum or Stephen A?
Whoo! That all depends on what office a person is running for. I think Paul Feinbaum is more electable in Alabama than Stephen A. Smith is as the mythical candidate for president of the United States. I think the problem that both of them have is something that they haven't done math on, that I feel like I've done a different math on over the past few years of my career, is everything you say is one step closer to saying one thing too many. And that's just something you got to remember when you decide you're going to do something like they say they want to do.
Look, man, the first person to put me on game was the man who had the smart idea to play some elevator music.
Yes. Can't do it all.
And I remember the thing that was, for me, right? When you say something like that, it's not that you can't say it. It's also the form in which you say it. And it's who you're saying it to.
Yes.
So Feinbaum didn't do that on his show. He did that on Clay Travis's show, which is a very different show than Feinbaum. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
He did that on his show.
Yes.
He didn't do that on ESPN's show.
Yes.
And, all these things that you work in a business, you come to understand. But yes, I have held back many of what I know is a fire joke. It might not land.
Yeah. You got to have a real confidence in what it is that you are offering. Like, it's not like, I realized when I did that show for HBO, one of the problems that I had was that I wasn't a comedian. I was in public, at least a quasi-serious person. That meant there were chances that they were willing to take on my name.
Okay.
That I could not do. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and so, but now, I think that it's very clear that Paul very much so wants to run. Right. I think that he doesn't do everything that he's done for some might. Like, I think in his heart, he's made the decision, even if in his mind, he has not made the decision. I think Stephen A. is trying to get this money. And I don't think that he's not taking a pay cut. And running for office would definitely involve a pay cut. Somewhere in here, Paul Feinbaum, I think Stephen A. believes that we need to hear what he thinks. I somehow believe that Paul Feinbaum has come to believe that he thinks that he can make the world a better place. And I mean, okay.
You and I have 2020 to reflect on and where we are now.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So I'm going to leave that alone for the rest of it, but I do appreciate you taking on that question. Mostly because for the life of me, I can't find anybody that I would like to have that conversation with.
Oh, it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
It is
a tough one. But I've been dancing through the raindrops for a long time. I'm good at it, baby. I know how to find the space.
That is Bomani Jones. He is the host of The Right Time. Catch it on YouTube. Listen to it Monday, Tuesday, right? Are we on there Tuesday?
Here and there.
Okay.
Here and there.
Wednesdays and Fridays. The guests are amazing. Bo is great. And I've always enjoyed listening. Every now and again, he pops up with somebody and I was like, yo, I had no idea I would like this person.
See, that's what I'm trying to do, man. If they with me, they cool. You know what I'm saying?
And that's enough. That's enough. And I was just thinking to myself, that's what he does. That's how great a host he is. Yeah, man, look. I could keep going, but I will not in the interest of time. Bo, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Hey, I appreciate you, man.
Right on.